Welcome to my channel. Today we'll be covering some scary stories. Story 1. I first noticed it a few weeks ago. It started with small things, a feeling of being watched when I walked home from work, shadows flickering at the edge of my vision. I brushed it off as paranoia, convincing myself it was nothing. Then, the letters began arriving. At first, they were just odd, unsigned notes left in my mailbox, containing vague, unsettling messages. "I see you," one said. Another read, "You're never alone." My heart would race every time I found one, but I still tried to rationalize it, thinking it was just a prank. But it got worse. I started finding things moved around in my apartment. My keys weren't where I left them, my mail had been opened, and personal items were misplaced. I began to feel a constant, suffocating sense of dread, especially when I noticed footprints in the soil outside my bedroom window. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft tapping on my window. My blood ran cold. I forced myself to look, and there, in the darkness, I could make out a shadowy figure staring back at me. I screamed, and they vanished into the night, leaving behind a deep sense of fear and violation. I reported everything to the police, but with no concrete evidence, there was little they could do. They suggested I get a security system, so I installed cameras around my apartment. For a while, things seemed to calm down. Then, one night, I reviewed the footage. My heart pounded as I watched the recording of a man standing in my living room, staring directly at the camera with a twisted smile before slowly walking out of view. He had been inside my home while I was asleep. Now, I don't know who to trust or where to turn. I feel trapped in my own life, constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for him to make his next move. The fear is eating me alive, and I don't know how much longer I can take it. Story 2. We just wanted a damn break. A quiet weekend away from the city, just me and Jake. We found this remote cabin online. Perfect, they said. Peaceful, secluded. It sounded like a dream. The first night was great. We had a fire going, roasted marshmallows, and laughed like we hadn't in months. But the second night, that's when everything went to hell. It started with the power cutting out. No big deal, right? We're in the middle of nowhere. We got the candles out, thinking it was just a minor inconvenience. Then we heard it, a soft, scraping noise coming from outside. Jake brushed it off as an animal, but something about it felt off. A few minutes later, we heard footsteps on the porch. Slow, deliberate. "Jake, what the fuck was that?" I whispered, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. He grabbed the poker from the fireplace and motioned for me to stay back. He opened the door a crack, peeking out. "Hello, is anyone there?" Silence. But as he shut the door, we both saw it, an eye staring back at us from the darkness. Jake slammed the door and locked it, but the fear was already settling in. We decided to check the windows, make sure they were locked. That's when we saw the figure standing just beyond the tree line, watching us. "Holy shit, Jake, who the fuck is that?" My voice was barely a whisper. Jake grabbed his phone, but of course, no signal. We were cut off, isolated. The footsteps came back, this time circling the cabin. The doorknob rattled. We backed away, holding our breath, praying it would stop. Then, a loud bang against the door made me scream. We barricaded ourselves in the bedroom, pushing the dresser against the door. The noises continued all night. Scraping, banging, whispers. I couldn't fucking breathe, convinced we wouldn't make it till morning. At dawn, everything went quiet. We slowly ventured out, hearts still racing. The front door was wide open, the lock busted. Our car's tires were slashed, and written on the hood in what looked like blood was a single word: leave. We didn't need another warning. We grabbed what we could and started walking, hoping to find help before whoever, or whatever, came back. That peaceful getaway turned into a goddamn nightmare, and I don't think we'll ever feel safe again. Story 3. I've always been careful with my phone, but losing it that day felt like the start of a goddamn horror movie. It vanished in a crowded mall, just slipped out of my pocket when I wasn't paying attention. Normally, I'd track it right away, but this time was different. The tracking app showed my phone in some abandoned building on the edge of town. Who the hell goes to places like that? I thought it must be a glitch, or maybe someone found it and was messing with me. But curiosity and desperation got the better of me, so I went to check it out. The building was decrepit, like something out of a nightmare. Boards on the windows, graffiti everywhere. I walked through broken glass and debris, heart pounding like a jackhammer. I found a staircase leading down to a basement, where the signal was strongest. As I descended, the air grew colder and the light dimmer. I should have turned back, but I couldn't leave without my phone. When I reached the bottom, I found a room with flickering lights and shadows dancing on the walls. There, in the middle of the floor, was my phone. I grabbed it, relief washing over me, but then I noticed something. Photos and videos on the phone that I didn't take. Dark, blurry images of me walking, sleeping, even eating. Someone had been following me, watching me, and they brought my phone here for some sick reason. I panicked, wondering if they were still around. Did they see me coming? Was I being watched right at that moment? I bolted out of there, not caring about anything but getting away. The rational part of me said to call the cops, but what would I tell them? That I found my phone in a creepy old building with stalker pics on it. I've changed my locks, increased security, but I still feel their eyes on me. Every shadow looks like a silhouette waiting to strike. I don't know who did this or why, but I pray I never have to experience something like that again. If you ever lose your phone in strange circumstances, for your own sake, don't go looking for it alone. Some things are better left lost. Story 4. I never believed in ghosts or shit like that, but what happened in that house made me question everything. It started with subtle noises, creaks in the attic, soft footsteps at night. I blamed it on the old pipes or the house settling. But then things got weird. One night, I heard distinct whispers coming from the attic. I brushed it off as the wind or my imagination, but the next morning, I found the attic door open. I knew I had locked it. I told myself maybe I forgot, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Then items started disappearing, little things at first, like socks or keys. I blamed it on being forgetful, until I found those items neatly stacked in a corner of the attic. Who the fuck would do that? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe an animal got in somehow, or maybe the previous owners had a key and were playing some sick game. But then came the night when I woke up to find someone standing at the foot of my bed. A dark silhouette, just watching me. I froze, unable to scream or move. They didn't say a word, just stood there, staring. When I finally found my voice and turned on the light, they were gone. Vanished into thin air. I called the police, but they found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing. They chalked it up to stress or a vivid dream. But I knew what I saw. I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow, barricading doors and windows, but it didn't help. One evening, I mustered the courage to investigate the attic. I found traces of someone living up there. Food wrappers, blankets, even a makeshift bed. I wanted to call the cops again, but what could I say? Someone's been squatting in my attic, watching me sleep. I moved out shortly after, leaving that house and all its nightmares behind. I don't know who, or what, was up there, but I pray I never find out. If you ever hear strange noises in your house, don't ignore them. Trust your instincts and get the hell out before it's too late. Story 5. Me and my friends had planned this camping trip for months, eager to reconnect with nature. It was supposed to be a weekend of laughter around the campfire, sharing stories under the stars, and maybe a few ghost tales to spice things up. Little did we know, it would turn into a harrowing experience that none of us would ever forget. As we sat around the fire, enjoying the warmth and camaraderie, a chill suddenly swept through the air. We heard a rustling in the bushes nearby, and when we turned our flashlights towards the sound, we saw it, a creature with massive antlers, watching us from the edge of the clearing. Fear seized us as we realized we were not alone. In a panic, we scattered, trying to find cover in the darkness. But in the chaos, one of us, let's call him Alex, got separated from the group. We called out for him, but there was no response. We dared not venture out to search in the darkness with that creature lurking nearby. When daylight finally broke, we gathered the courage to search for Alex. We found no trace of him except for his torn jacket and scattered belongings near where we last saw him. Heart pounding, I picked up the jacket, hoping against hope that it was just a scare, that Alex would emerge from the trees, laughing at our overreaction. But as I lifted the jacket, something heavy slipped out of it, a clean, white bone that glinted in the early morning light. Shock and horror gripped us as we realized what it was, a perfectly intact human backbone. It lay there, stark against the forest floor, a grim testament to the fate that had befallen our friend. We buried the backbone in hopes of no one ever finding it again. The local authorities were called, and a search party combed the area, but there was no sign of him. They concluded he must have gotten lost and fallen victim to the elements, but those of us who were there knew the truth. We saw the creature take him. When pressed by the authorities, we could only stammer that Alex had disappeared into the night, taken by something we couldn't explain. The memory of his terrified expression as he vanished into the darkness haunts us to this day, a grim reminder of the dangers that lurk in the wilderness. Thank you for watching my video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe.